You know, AutoZone is great at helping their customers.
True. From free battery charging to Loan-A-Tool, they help people get in the zone.
I was thinking, what if they also helped us send 4 listeners to the ESPYs?
Greeny, that's exactly what they're doing. It's the Mike and Mike experience at the ESPYs presented by AutoZone. Folks just have to listen and watch us from April 20th through May 15th. All the details are at espnradio.com/Mike's SB contest.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's called The Zone. AutoZone's going to help you get there.
National League Central rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNradio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hi, it's Greeny. Thank you for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. What we have for you today, huge debate including all of your reaction to the top 20 athletes of the last 20 years. I love ESPN.com, but suffice it to say they got it wrong. Plus, Rick Pitino with his thoughts on the Final Four and on college coaches going to the pros, and interesting stories about NFL teams and the length they will go to investigate the kids they may draft.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
That was an unprecedented moment yesterday in the annals of Mike and Mike. 15 years plus, we've been sitting here, and it is the first time you have ever defeated me in a battle of wits. In a moment of debate, you won, I lost.
Listen, I would debate that, but I just don't remember any other time.
Well, that is making my point for me. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. All our guests, as always, on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. It was a great night in the NBA. Huge performances,
geez.
triple-doubles galore, practically unprecedented numbers. We'll get to all of that. But for those who didn't hear it yesterday, just quickly to touch on that, I'm glad Randy brought that back. Because I made a really big deal out about this on the show for 2 days and a big deal about it on Twitter as well, that I would rather play golf with Keegan Bradley and Luke Donald than with Michael Jordan and Tom Brady, and because they are golfers. Right. And I would rather play golf with any great golfers than with any other people. And I don't know if you got it from a tweeter or an emailer or you just thought of it yourself.
Well, I put two together. So somebody had emailed in, what about Ty Burrell? And that's when I thought, okay, Ty Burrell and your other man crush, Jerry Seinfeld. So I put the two of them together and said that would be the twosome you would choose over. Forget Keegan Bradley and Luke Donald. You choose them over Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus.
I think I'd choose them over anyone, just for that opportunity to spend time with them. Now, I would prefer, I would choose almost any activity over golf with the two of them. First of all, Jerry Seinfeld hates golf. He has a whole routine I've seen him do in stand-up in which he makes fun of the game of golf. He doesn't like, when we had him on, we talked with him about golf, and he said specifically, I don't like golf. So that would never happen in the first place, but that's not the premise of the question. I'd rather have dinner with Jerry Seinfeld than play golf with him. I'd rather have lunch, coffee, a snack, you name it. I'd rather do basically anything than play golf with Jerry Seinfeld. But if you told me the only way I could hang out with Jerry Seinfeld and Ty Burrell was to play golf with them,
you do it.
I'd do it.
I know you would do it. I would love to be with the pro golfers, and we've been fortunate enough to do it more than a few times at the Shell Houston Open with the Gary Woodlands of the world and the Ben Curtis and others that we have.
We played with 4 guys. We played with Johnson Wagner, Ben Curtis, Gary Woodland, and Lucas Glover.
Right. And it was fantastic. Had a ball with those guys, in that setting. But to go out and just golf with them, quite honestly, at some point, not even by my talking, how I get in your face, so I think they would have fun with it, they would be done tired of me because they're great. I shoot in the 90s, and that's if I'm drunk.
Right.
So, I have to plow myself with beer, and then what if I'm in the woods, they got to go wait for me to get my ball. I don't know what a great experience that's going to be.
Here's what would be a great experience. If you played, let's say you and I played against each other, and we were taking this let's say there were real stakes, like significant stakes.
Okay.
And then I've got Keegan Bradley on my team, and you've got Luke Donald on your team, and there's significant stakes for them as well. They want to win really badly. So now you are actually up close and personal watching them at their best, the way that their mentality might be, obviously maybe not in the Masters, but like borderline that, and when they're taking it real seriously, not a pro-am.
It would be great.
Not just us out playing a Nassau, but to actually be there. I've only been inside the ropes at a golf event once. I did one golf event for ABC a million years ago, the Western Open in Chicago, back when they used to play it at Cog Hill. And I was doing like roving reporting and some pieces for them and stuff, and I did so well they never asked me back. But I had being inside the ropes was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Just seeing the intensity, listening to the discussions between the golfer and the caddy, and getting it. It was fascinating. I loved it. I was fascinated.
I'm with you. I could see that. The most fun of that, of the description you just gave of the two of us with the two of them, would be watching you fall apart.
I would. I would choke like whatever it is that chokes. I would choke.
Yeah, that would be fun.
What chokes? Well, I don't even know what it is. I was about to say I would choke like a what? I don't even know what a choke is.
Well, I think the picture book definition, when you say you choke like a greenie.
Yeah, that's probably it. That probably would be the ideal person. I would probably be the definition for that. All right, let's get to this. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You could save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now, that's Progressive. I have been biting my tongue in both the normal way and in the current way, which is I've been biting my fingers, meaning I did not tweet about this all day yesterday, even though when I first saw it, I almost fell out of my chair, okay? ESPN.com celebrated its 20th anniversary yesterday. ESPN.com, at one point, it may still be the most visited website in the world.
Really incredible.
Congratulations to everybody over there. They do a great job. It's where I get 90% of my sports information.
There was no ESPN.com cake anywhere yesterday.
There was no cake.
No.
You're right. And not only
that, we celebrated our 15th. Was there a cake?
Yes.
This is 20 years of ESPN.com. Did you see cake anywhere here yesterday?
I will add to that, Mike. There were two cake-like occasions yesterday. ESPN.com turned 20.
Right.
And we hit, the Mike and Mike Twitter feed hit 1 million followers.
1 million followers.
For neither of those occasions,
none,
did we receive cake.
None. Not one.
Cakeless. Sitting here cake-free.
I'm stunned.
But anyway, so, I mean, a tip of my, the chapeau over there to the whole crew over at ESPN.com. They do a fabulous job. They just redesigned the website. It looks great.
It looks fantastic, and now we're about to rip them.
All right. Well, I'm going to disagree strongly, strongly with a top-line opinion that they came out with. Now, many years ago, we did at ESPN, you might recall, at the turn of the century, the top 100 athletes of the 20th century. Dan Patrick hosted it. Mark Shapiro, who was basically, it made Mark Shapiro an icon. He produced the whole thing, and it was so extraordinarily well done. And it was called Sports Century, and it was the top 100 athletes of the 100
It was fantastic.
Years. It was fantastic.
Save for putting a horse in it, it was fantastic.
But that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Because whether you agreed with it as I did or disagreed with it as you did, it created enormous conversation.
You're right.
So it was a brilliant thing to do. And the pieces were, I mean, they did, people who were watching ESPN then remembered. It was brilliantly done.
I agree.
So they did an admittedly much smaller version of that yesterday with the 20th anniversary of ESPN.com, and they just listed the top 20 athletes of the last 20 years. Now, what I'm about to say, I risk the wrath of the one person I fear most in this world, and that is Mrs. Greeny. If you know our show and you know my family dynamic, you know that I met and married a Chicago girl. You can take the girl out of Chicago as I did, but you don't take the Chicago out of the girl. And she loves Michael Jordan more than she loves me.
No, without question.
And no question about it. If you told her she could play golf with me or with Michael Jordan, that would not take long.
That's not the only thing.
And she doesn't even play golf.
Right.
Easy.
All right.
But anyway, the point of it is this. It may not be untrue, but I don't like to hear it. Anyway, here's the point. I covered Michael Jordan. I've told you that so many times people get sick of me saying
without question.
Almost the most important things I think I know about sports I learned from following Michael Jordan for 7 years. I admire Michael Jordan as much as I admire any person that I know, and I think he is the greatest player I've ever seen play any sport, and it's not close. Having said that, Michael Jordan is not the greatest athlete of the last 20 years. He's just not. 20 years ago this week, he came back from playing baseball and wore number 45. His best years were already behind him. Now, he came back. I was there. I was there the day he came back. I was there with him in spring training in baseball, and I was there covering the rest of the 2 of the 3 years of that remaining three-peat. I came to ESPN in the middle of it. But Michael Jordan came back. He won 3 more titles. He was the best player in the NBA for those 3 years. No doubt about it.
Sure.
No question about it. Could have and should have been the MVP of the league all 3 of those years.
Was in the finals.
Won the title all 3 of those years and was the finals MVP all 3 of those years.
Yes.
And then he retired. He then came back and played a couple of years with the Washington Wizards. Now, at the age at which he was and the stage of life at which he was and the time he had taken off, he represented himself extraordinarily well in that time.
But he was no longer Michael Jordan.
No. Not even close.
No.
Not even close.
No.
So the point of it is this. It is not in any way demeaning. Michael Jordan was number one in Sports Century. The reason I brought that up is that in Sports Century, the big debate was who's going to be one, Jordan or Babe Ruth.
Right.
And they went Jordan 1 and Babe Ruth 2. And personally, I thought it could have gone the other way. But either way.
However,
I had zero issue with Michael Jordan being number one. Michael Jordan is, in my opinion, the greatest basketball player that ever lived. If you want to say he's the greatest player in the history of American team sports, you will get zero argument out of me. And he deserves every accolade he receives. But in the last 20 years, there's no way he should have been number one on this list. No way.
I agree. And saying Michael Jordan isn't number one on any list is almost like when I utter the words that the Beatles are a bit overrated. You know, it creates a firestorm. You know, and I agree with you. I agree with you. Now, obviously, we'll get the link out to everybody. You can see what the top 20 are if you haven't already seen it. Of who they ESPN.com has on their list.
You want to just read through it quickly?
Yeah, why don't you go through
they have Michael Jordan number one, and they write in here, the tongue, the clincher, the flu, the facts. Yes, the 90s belong to his airness. Here's the problem.
Yeah.
By 1995, the 90s were half over.
That's exactly right.
If you were including all of the 90s, then this wouldn't even be a discussion.
Exactly.
Because he won 3 previous titles in the 90s. He won in 91, 92, 93.
So if you were starting in the 90s, we're talking about 6 titles. But we're not.
But we're not. So here's their list. Their list is number 1 is Jordan. Number 2 is LeBron. Number 3 is Tiger. Number 4 is Tom Brady. Number 5 is Roger Federer. Number 6 is Serena Williams. Number 7 is Peyton Manning. Number 8 is Kobe Bryant. 9 is Michael Phelps. 10 is Derek Jeter. 11 is Shaquille O'Neal. 12 is Lionel Messi. 13 is Lance Armstrong, which is a great one for debating. Okay. 14 is Tim Duncan. 15 is Brett Favre. 16 is Usain Bolt. 17 is Floyd Mayweather Jr. 18 is Mia Hamm. 19 is Barry Bonds. And 20 is Sidney Crosby. Now, I don't have a lot of quarrel with the people that they chose. I didn't spend a lot of time, and I would like to today, thinking of people that are not on this list. The first name that jumped into my mind that isn't on the list is Randy Moss. Randy Moss's entire career would have been in the last 20 years. You could make an argument he's the second greatest wide receiver of all time. So I think he certainly deserves some consideration. Jerry Rice's best years would have been before the 20. And there are probably some other people that we'll think of.
I'm sure we're going to hear from everybody out there about others that you may think of.
If you want to start debating order, there's a bunch of different places. I think Tim Duncan is low, but that's neither here nor there. Overwhelmingly, my major point is to say Jordan is number one on this list would be like saying that the Beatles are the greatest band of all time if you only start counting them in 1968. You know, we're only counting like the White Album. They're the greatest band of all time, but that only is if you include the totality of their work. If you just are limiting it to Jordan's last 3 years, I'm not even counting the Wizards years, because no one would put the Wizards years into this mix. In the Wizards years, he wasn't one of the 20 best players in the league then. Or maybe he was, but you know what I mean. And it's a good point here that Ray just brought up a bunch of names that aren't on this list. Mariano Rivera is not on this list.
Right.
Sorry, I completely overlooked that. He absolutely should be on this list. Alex Rodriguez, if you're going to put Lance Armstrong on, I think you got to put A-Rod on. You put Barry Bonds on, how do you not put A-Rod on? How do you not and who's the other one you listed? He wrote a name up there and you just erased it, and it was a good idea. Oh, Albert Pujols. So we could start debating people who could be or should be on the list. But
I believe if I look, there's only the one baseball player. No, there's 2.
Jeter and Bonds.
And Jeter is sitting there at number 10, and should he not even be in the top Yankee in that time?
Well, I would put Mariano Rivera there. Yeah. If you're going to include Barry Bonds and Barry Bonds and Lance Armstrong, then I think you have to include A-Rod. I mean, A-Rod, if we're just taking his career, like Barry Bonds, if you're just taking his career, and Bonds had a lot of great years before 20 years ago.
He did.
When they won what year was it that he won when they were there with the Pirates and they lost to the Braves? Is that 92? So he had a bunch of years. He was MVP before 95. So some of Bonds' greatness comes before that.
Right.
A-Rod's does not. A-Rod's does not. A-Rod's career fits perfectly within the parameters of what we're talking about.
So if you're going to have Bonds and you're going to have Lance Armstrong,
how's A-Rod
not in there?
A-Rod is A-Rod is the greatest shortstop that ever lived. He just happened to move to third base. Now, he was a cheater and may have been a cheater from day one.
Right.
So if you're going to discount him based on that, I have zero quarrel with that. But you have Lance Armstrong.
That's exactly right. You have other guys that are in the same boat. So,
but most controversially, do you agree with me that Michael Jordan should not be number one?
Not only should Michael Jordan, in my opinion, not be number one, I would put 4, maybe 5 ahead of him.
Let me hear who?
LeBron. I think number one, to me, Tiger Woods.
I agree.
Tiger Woods
I would
be
put
number
Tiger one.
I think I would have LeBron ahead of him, and I think Roger Federer and Serena Williams. And I would think of possibly Tom Brady.
See, the thing about Brady, Federer, what year did Federer? Yeah, there's no way in the world he was playing 20 years ago. So some of the years things gets complicated to me. But all of them, the thing about LeBron, Tiger's first Masters was 97.
97, yeah.
So Tiger, LeBron, Brady, Federer, Serena, even Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
All of them, every single thing they've accomplished came in the last 20 years.
Peyton came in the league in 99.
This is not knocking Michael Jordan.
No.
All right? And I'm saying that to my wife, Stacey, who is going to wake up at some point here. I've said this and is going to kill me. But Michael Jordan's career is greater than any of these people. I would put Jordan number one on this list of greatest career.
Right, but we're not talking about that.
But most of his career
was over.
His whole college career, which he should put into the discussion, and everything else, the dream team, and all that comes before 20 years ago.
To me, Tiger Woods is number one. To me, without question.
I agree.
The dominance of Tiger Woods, that's what I look at, is the dominance. And there are 3 people that I look at as dominant in that time. It's Tiger Woods, it's Roger Federer, and Serena Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, name me 3 more in this time frame again, more dominant athletes.
I'll give you one, and you're going to love it. Michael Phelps.
Well, yeah.
He's that dominant.
That is true.
Now, it depends on how you want to classify a swimmer, but he's an athlete in every conceivable way.
Everybody will look at him only in the Olympics, but there are, world championships every year,
Here's how you do it, right? The reason I would not put Tom Brady ahead is because while I would put Brady ahead of Peyton, it's not clear-cut, no question, dominant. Brady's the best of his era.
I agree. We say
Tiger
most,
it is.
There's no Tiger it is. Federer it is, right?
Well, you can make some argument with Federer.
With Nadal, he had trouble beating Nadal. Yeah, without a.
With Serena, there's no question.
There's no question.
No question.
No question.
None at all. And with Phelps, there's no question.
And that's right. It's exactly right.
Phelps is as dominant as anyone has ever been, right?
Ever.
How could you be more dominant than him?
Right.
Now, there's no, Ray is bringing up, there are no NASCAR drivers on here. Who would it be? Jeff Gordon in that time
Jeff Gordon,
frame?
Jimmy Johnson's got, 6
Oh,
titles.
Jimmy Johnson. I'm sorry.
Johnson,
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson would be, I would assume would be at the top of that list. You would have to ask someone more educated in that sport than I.
That's so there are 2. Obviously, the order in here.
The only hockey player is Sid Crosby.
Who? Congrats to him for his accomplishments yesterday.
Yeah.
He scored a 300
career
goal. Yeah. So it's the order inside is one thing, but it's who was left off the list, and who, if you don't have Jordan number one, where would he be, and who would you have number one? To me, it's Tiger Woods. To me, you won't see that dominance again of what he did. And again, I get Jordan's whole career. But you really have to understand, Jordan's career was basically done. Well, 3 titles, 3 MVPs, I guess, not completely done. But you know what we're saying. What Tiger Woods did in that time frame, to me, is not going to happen again. I know you can never say never.
I mean, it probably will happen again, but it'll be a really long time, right? And his dominance is the sort of thing that comes along like 2 or 3 times a century.
Let me just say, if it happens again, there will be no more Mike and Mike.
Yeah, no, very unlikely.
Yeah. So, to me, he's number one. And then I think Serena, Federer, and I agree with you on Phelps.
I would put Phelps higher than he is.
I would as well. Just sheer dominance, because that's what you're looking at. But I'm in agreement with you completely. Michael Jordan should not be number one. And there's not many times you don't say Michael Jordan shouldn't be number one on a list.
Keep those names up there, Ray, as we compile a list of people that we think should have been on here. Mariano Rivera for sure. A-Rod, let the debate begin. I mean, that's a fact, because if we're taking him at face value,
there's no debate.
He should be in the top 10.
If you have Bonds in there and Lance Armstrong in there,
Right.
it's just like the Hall of Fame voting. If you vote one in, you better vote them all in.
So let's see. What did they write about Lance Armstrong? They wrote, who is Lance Armstrong? Is he the Tour de France legend who beat cancer and captured an unprecedented 7 consecutive yellow jerseys from 1999 until 2005? Or is he merely cycling's exiled ex-star living in self-made purgatory who lost those same jerseys amid a haze of performance-enhancing drugs and elaborate lies? Perhaps he is both. At once the sport's most successful competitor and most abhorred history maker. That's well written. Okay, fine. If you want to say that, then where's A-Rod?
Right.
I mean, where's A-Rod?
That's exactly right.
A-Rod has hit 600 and how many home runs?
You have to put him in there.
He's hit over 600 home runs as a shortstop. Well, many of them didn't come as a shortstop, but he was a shortstop. And when he was a shortstop, he was the best shortstop in the game. I love Derek Jeter, but A-Rod was a better shortstop than Jeter.
There is
no
way that you can have Bonds and Lance Armstrong on this list and then not have A-Rod on
I agree.
list. Can't do it. And I agree with you about Randy Moss. Randy Moss.
I think you could argue Randy Moss is the second best receiver of all time. Every one of his catches came in the last 20 years.
I think that's a good one.
I mean, Terrell Owens, there's a lot of great players.
Well, I think those are the two right off the bat.
How about Adrian Peterson? Is he that close yet?
Yeah,
Is Adrian Peterson a greater football player than... So you're getting into so many things here. Now, I mean,
the football players on this are just quarterbacks. You know, you're talking Favre, you're talking Brady and Manning.
It's Brady, Manning, and Favre
I'm not putting
are the only football players.
So to me, right off the bat, A-Rod and Randy Moss are two guys that again, we're going to hear of many. People are going to tweet and email.
If I had to pick the one person who was most blatantly missed on this thing, it's Mariano Rivera, with an asterisk, appropriately enough, next to Alex Rodriguez. Which is, if you're going to put these other guys on, I don't know how you don't put him on.
There's no asterisk next. And I'm looking at these names. I don't see any asterisks. So why isn't A-Rod in there?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I mean, if my asterisk would mean if you're going to put these other guys on, how do you not put him on? All right, so we'll talk about this morning. Let's hear from you. What are your thoughts? By the way, there's a special podcast on ESPNradio.com hosted by Michael and Jamel that's available starting today, celebrating the 20th anniversary of ESPN.com. And as we have sat here ripping their list to shreds this morning.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations. And I do love ESPN.com, and they've done a fabulous job. The relaunch looks terrific. But... and this is a big but, I think the big miss here is at the very top.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Guys, when you buy your clothes at DXL, you look good. But you feel like a rock star. So if you want to look and feel like you'll find all the brands you love, waist size 38 and up, all in one awesome store. DXL, you're looking good. Right now, select dress shirts are just $49.50 each when you buy 2 or more.
Mike and Mike.
Throw this in real quick because, you write your books and you with your albums, you all talking about, going on your tours.
We're very accomplished people.
Yeah, you really are. And you kind of mock me for it. Can I just throw this out here? My wife, Chris, was in Tampa Bay doing a clinic out there for the moms for the Heads Up program. And listen to what it says about her and when they introduced her. Chris Golic, wife of NFL legend and ESPN host. NFL legend.
Did she get remarried?
Attaboy, Darius.
That's not funny.
That was awesome.
That's not funny.
Darius Rucker in our studio yesterday, beating me to the punch.
Yeah.
He's funnier than I am. He should be the host of the show.
Oh, he's been.
Yeah,
Wait till we
he
make
has.
a wager on South Carolina Notre Dame women in the Final Four. When all of a sudden he has to sing a song about me being a legend.
Did you work out the wager with him?
Me in, that's what I want.
Did you talk to him?
That's what I want on my end. One of two things. He has to write just one verse, few lines, of singing about me being a legend, or he has to put me in his next music video.
I mean, what are you going to do if he wins? That's the problem. You have nothing to offer him.
Listen, I'll offer him the world because it's not going to happen.
Let's go back to the previous part of that.
Yeah.
That Chris Golic was speaking at an event. And again, there's only one legend in the Golic family, and it's she. Or it's her. But they introduced her as wife of NFL legend
NFL
Mike
legend.
Golic.
Yeah.
NFL legend
We went out to lunch yesterday, and she took a picture of me and tweeted it out. She said, "I just had lunch with a legend." Said you're darn right you did.
I thought that was very funny.
Yeah,
So well done on everybody's part. Mike
Yeah.
and Mike, our Sports Center, brought to you by Warner. If you haven't heard, Warner came out with a brand new style of ladder, Dub Podium. Come on, if you're afraid of heights, this one's for you. Once you step on Dub Podium, you'll see what safety feels like. Check it out at WarnerPodium.com. All right, we'll keep going with these the debate over the top 20. Because it's fun and it's a good topic and everyone seems to be reacting strongly. But let's get a couple of other things in here this morning. Rick Pitino is on the way. And I wanted to play you what Geno Auriemma said for those who didn't hear it. Geno Auriemma is a fascinating guy to me.
Yes, he is.
You know, maybe it is because of our proximity to the campus. We work in Bristol, Connecticut, and Storrs, Connecticut is not all that far away. And when you live in this area, they don't have a professional sports team directly here. It sort of splits up into some people root for the Boston team,
right.
Some people root for the New York teams. But everyone roots for UConn. So UConn, both men's and women's basketball, are colossal. I've never been anywhere where a women's basketball team was as popular as it is here.
Could not agree more.
It may be the case in Tennessee. It may be the case in a few other places. I don't know. But I've certainly never witnessed anything like it. The women of UConn basketball are as big a stars as there are. In sports in this area, and God bless them. I love seeing that opportunity. And Geno has created that completely by himself. He's he's in the Hall of Fame, but because he coaches women, in some quarters he's just never going to get his due.
No, he's not.
He's just not.
Right.
And you're going to hear people say things. I think decreasingly so, but still, you're going to hear people say, "Well, if he was such a great coach, why wouldn't he coach the men?" And
he's a guy who
he's comfortable with that.
He's
and
a guy
whatever
who's
it is.
chosen where he is. Loves what he's doing and feels for him this is the pinnacle for him. And more power to him.
And I enjoy him. He is an outspoken,
yes, he is.
Feisty, willing to tell you whatever he thinks and you know, the consequences be damned kind of a guy, which I admire particularly in the current climate of sports. But anyway, so they're getting ready to play in the Final Four, and he does a conference call yesterday before he went on with Scott and Ryan. And he made comments that certainly got a lot of attention about the men's game. Here's what he said.
The game's a joke. It really is. I don't coach it. I don't play it, so I don't understand all the ins and outs of it. But as a spectator watching it, it's a joke. There's only like 10 teams, you know, in the top 25 that actually play the kind of game of basketball that you'd like to watch. And the bottom line is nobody can score. And they'll tell you, well, it's because of great defense, great scouting, a lot of film work. Nonsense. College men's basketball is so far behind the times, it's unbelievable.
Men's college basketball is a joke.
And understand, in that he said the women's game is behind the times as well. He said that about the sport that he coaches.
He said it, yeah. He talked about it with Scott and Ryan also. So he went on SVP and Russillo here on ESPN Radio after he had made those comments, and they were widely circulated. So, of course, you know, that's the topic of conversation with Geno, and here's a little more.
Hey, look, the women's game is even less watchable. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is the ability of kids to make shots like they used to back in the day is gone.
So he did say that about his own sport as well, and the women's side of it. What have we been talking about? I mean, this whole tournament. What is every coach that we brought on when we talked about the changes that they're trying in the NIT, from the shot clock to the charging lane and then they would list other changes that they would make. Was Geno wrong? I mean, the way Geno says it, I'm sure irks the heck out of men's basketball coaches and former coaches and players. But isn't
the honest one.
Isn't this what we have been talking about? That the game has been struggling, that the changes haven't come at the rate that they've come in other sports to update the game?
Here's the problem with what Geno Auriemma said. He's 100% right. He's absolutely right. And he went on Scott and Ryan's show to say this.
You watch kids play today in college, and it's just one mug fest after another. People beating each other up and pounding the ball on the court, and very little movement because the guys are so big you can't move. And then you look at the NBA, and they've addressed that issue. Men's college basketball is the only sport that hasn't addressed why there's a lack of scoring in the game.
He's 100% right.
We've been talking about it for the last few weeks. We've been talking exactly this. But because Geno said it and the way he said it, saying it's a joke, all of a sudden, he's fanning the flames.
Well, I think what it is when you first hear he said it, some might have an immediate assumption okay, well, he's saying the women's game is better. He's telling you he's not saying that.
Right?
He's 1,000% right. Men's college basketball is a fraction, from an entertainment standpoint, a fraction of what it used to be. The tournament remains magnificent.
The tournament.
Because the games are close at the end and everything is at stake.
Right.
The quality of play he is 1,000% right.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
The Hall of Famer Rick Pitino, coach of Louisville, is with us on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. How are you, Coach?
Great. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Tough loss, obviously, on Sunday. Let's just start with that. You've been through a lot of ups and a lot of downs in your careers, winning championships, losing some historical games. I mean, the Leitner thing and everything else, and then, losing in the Elite Eight in overtime. How long does it take, someone like you to bounce back from something like that in your own mind?
It's even though we can look back and say it was a great season, we made the first free throw by luck. The ball clanked off the left side, hit the top, and went in. And then all I could think about was we just got to trap him in the backcourt. We got 4 seconds to go to another final flip. And I was positive he was going to make the second. And when he missed it, I said, okay, we got to win this in overtime. So it takes a while. It takes a long time to get over it because you just keep thinking, what if it goes in? What if you make the layup? And so many things go through your mind, but you got to give credit to Michigan State. They beat us in overtime, and they did a wonderful job.
So that's part of it, of in time to get over it. How about the immediacy of when that game ends? Not only that the season is over, but there are guys that you're coaching that you're done coaching. How talk about that for a moment, the emotion of that recognition that it's done with those guys.
Yeah, but Montrezl Harrell was a great player for us. Wayne Blackshear was one of the winningest 4th straight Sweet 16s or better, multiple Big East Conference championships. So he goes out as a big-time winner. Terry Rozier leaves, and you realize you have to start over, and it's a new team. And that's the great thing about college basketball. In one sense, you miss the guys. It's not like professional basketball where you have the same group coming back. You're waiting for a draft choice. You just recruit other players. You move on, and you have some great experience with some new people.
All right, Mike and Rick Pitino, I would love to get your take on, I don't know if you specifically heard what Geno Auriemma said about saying the men's game is a joke, not fun to watch and things like that. But just in general, there's been so much complaint about the way the game is played right now on the college level. And I first became a fan of yours when you were the coach of the Knicks. And so I know that if it were up to you, every game would finish 120 to 110. With that as the backdrop of the question, what are your thoughts on the way the game is currently played? And if I gave you carte blanche to make some changes, what would you do?
Well, you're right. We averaged 116.8 points per game with the Knicks, and we were 3rd in the league in scoring. And guys, I'll tell you one thing. I was on a part of a commission by David Stern of about 20 coaches and general managers to try and get more scoring in the game because there was only one team, I think, breaking 100 points at that time. And we all came up with a lot of different things, 8 seconds in the backcourt. The bottom line to it all, though, scoring didn't get better until the referees changed the game. No matter what rules we tried to implement, it was up to the referees to change it, to have freedom of movement, call the fouls early, get it over with so everybody realizes that you have to have freedom of movement. Now the NBA game is much better. There's much more scoring. So it's really not up to the coaches. It's really the referees that determine how the game is called. Once you allow forearms in the backs, hand checking, and chucking cutters, you're going to have a low-scoring game because defense is going to win out. Very similar to the rule changes in the NFL to allow the quarterbacks not to get hit as hard, to allow more for the receivers to go out and not get hit. So they change their game, we have to change our game. I don't know if it's a joke because there are quite a few games that are very exciting, very thrilling, and Notre Dame, Kentucky, our game against Michigan State. And there's a lot of thrilling games, but by and large, there needs to be more scoring in the collegiate game. And until the referees change the game, it's going to stay the same.
As far as that's concerned, so you're right, they have to change. But as far as what can change, what they tried the NIT with dropping the 30-second clock, moving out the charge line, are there things like that the game can do to help it along?
It'll help it along, but that didn't make a difference in the NBA. It really did not. What changed in the NBA was the changing of the way the referees called the game. And in the beginning, the writers everybody, the fans complain about there's too many calls, the game's too long, but it takes time to implement that. It's going to take a good 3 or 4 months. And once you do that, and the players now stop from hand checking, stop from chucking the cutters, and they allow freedom of movement, now you have a better offensive game, and you have less defense, like we know it now. But the NFL did it, the NBA did it, and it's time for us to do it.
Mike and Mike, Rick Pitino is with us on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. At Subway, you can make every morning the best morning ever with freshly made breakfast sandwiches. Subway, eat fresh. You played 3 of the 4 teams that are in the Final Four this year, so let's get your perspective on those, starting with Duke and Michigan State. You played them both, obviously, Duke in the conference there. And let's start with them. I was looking at some numbers. Their defensive efficiency in the tournament is like night and day. During the season, their defensive efficiency was not so good. Their defensive efficiency is extraordinarily good in the tournament, going up against a Michigan State team that has gotten hot at the right time and, of course, knocked you out in overtime on Sunday. So give us your sense of how you expect that game to go.
Well, two great coaches who know how to coach in the tournament, but Duke is much more talented. I don't think that Michigan State has probably a first-round draft choice on their roster. Duke is loaded with about 3 or 4 of them. And so they're both outstanding coaches. They both have a great system. They both know how to coach in the tournament. So you have to give the strong edge to Duke. Duke certainly has Okafor in the middle. He's tough to stop. There's nobody of great size at Michigan State. He'll play great team defense. He'll trap down. He'll go after them with their guards digging the basketball, but they can throw it out and hit the 3. So, you have to give a strong edge to Duke in that game.
And then you guys lost an 8-point game to Kentucky earlier in the season. So much talk about them, and you're right, it was an exciting game with my alma mater, Notre Dame, and them and the way they played. Talk about them and just from their depth and what you think is the best game plan going forward for a team like Wisconsin to beat them.
Well, Wisconsin will have a similar game plan to that Notre Dame had, except they've got a different answer. They've got the player of the year in Kaminsky. Now, Kentucky's going to go after Kaminsky and try to get him in foul trouble with Towns, with Cauley Stein, with Dakari Johnson. They're going to try to pound it inside and get him in foul trouble. Now, they have more of an answer, Wisconsin, than Notre Dame did. Notre Dame didn't have an answer for that. So they'll play the same style that Notre Dame did. Mike Bray came up with a great game plan. If Kaminsky can stay out of foul trouble, Wisconsin can hang in there. It's going to be anyone's game, except there's one difference. Wisconsin hung in there with them last year, and Kentucky was a good team. This year, they're a great team. So they can come in, if the first unit's not working well, they come in with 2 different guards, with Booker and the other little point guard. They can come in with the Harrison twins. They can change their front court. And they come at you with waves. They shoot the ball great. They have answers for every single thing you can throw at them. But Wisconsin, if they hang in there, they're a great shooting team, great foul shooting team, and they don't foul. The key to Wisconsin is if Kaminsky stays out of foul trouble, they will stay in the game, and it'll be anybody's game down the stretch.
Mike and Mike, Rick Pitino is with us. One more thought for you quickly, because every year around this time there is talk about different coaching vacancies in the NBA and whether one of the college guys will fill them. We've heard John Calipari's name connected to a million different things. Tom Izzo came up a time or two and probably still will. And we all remember your stints in the NBA, and people will look back on your time in Boston and say, if you get Tim Duncan, who knows, maybe you're still there, and all that. And that's why I always say the college coach who has it in a really good place, in my opinion, has it much better than the NBA coach. The NBA coaches are there to get fired. They have very little control over their roster. And the college coaches, you stay in one place for as long as you want to. You recruit the best players every single year, and someday they put your name on the basketball court. What to you is the draw of going to the NBA for a college coach who's in a good situation, and what are the biggest challenges of one versus the other?
Well, it was different for me. I grew up a New York Knicks fan, so to coach the New York Knicks was a lifelong dream. In New York, we didn't root for colleges back then. There was no Big East. So for me, it was a dream to coach the Knicks. And, we had great success with Patrick Ewing, Mark Jackson, and Oakley, and I worked under UB Brown, so I was an assistant. I knew what the NBA was about. I don't recommend it for the college coach who has not done it that way, who doesn't know what the NBA is all about. It's a totally different game in dealing with players. You're more of a CEO. You're managing players. You're not necessarily doing what you do in college. I enjoyed both of those thoroughly. I didn't enjoy the Celtics as much because we didn't win, but I loved coaching the New York Knicks as both an assistant with UB and as a head coach. But I don't recommend it for college coaches to do that unless they know what it's all about. Now, I take someone like Billy Donovan. I think Billy has looked at it. I think he has an urge to coach in the NBA, a strong desire to coach in the NBA. He would like to try it, very similar to Brad Stevens, who's doing a wonderful job with the Celtics. So I think people like that with that type of personality will do very well. I don't think Tom Izzo should even think about it. I've told him that many, many times because he is what college basketball is all about. You know, he's a staple at Michigan State. And he's of the age, like if Billy doesn't do well, he can go back to college. Brad Stevens can go back to college. When you get to our age, Tom and my age, you know, where are you going to go back to? The McBurney's YMCA on, 27th Street or 34th Street? You know, so if you're happy where you're at, it's probably a good place to stay.
Rick, it's always our pleasure. Thank you. Travel safe. Enjoy the Final Four. We'll see you again soon.
Great, guys. Nice speaking with you.
The best of Mike and Mike.
That's funny. You can't sing along to this.
Why?
You don't like the Beatles.
That's not true. See,
you don't like them.
You misrepresent me. I just said that I love a lot of their music. I just think a bit overrated for the some of it. That's what I said.
You hate the Beatles.
Don't hate them.
Darius Rucker wanted to punch you in the face
let me tell you
yesterday.
what. We've been friends for a little while now, and he sent me about as scathing a text when I was talking about that as I've ever gotten from him.
We are Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Mel Kiper a little later on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. In the meantime, today's the day that everyone is yelling at me, including my wife. Let me go through a couple of these things. Let me just say, I read the Oscar Robertson versus Russell Westbrook numbers. They came from Tom Haberstraw. They just are what they are. Sometimes you read numbers, and they are, for those of you just joining us, if you take Russell Westbrook's season and you adjust them to the pace, the number of possessions per 48 minutes that the Big O played in his triple-double season, and you give him the number of minutes played, guys play far fewer minutes now than they used to, that Oscar Robertson played when he was playing, that his numbers would dwarf the numbers of Oscar Robertson. They just would, including averaging 47 points a game. They are what they are. The numbers are what they are. I'm not saying they're better. And so for all of you saying, hey, Greeny, there was no three-point shot then, I know that. I know there was no three-point shot then. How many more points per game would Oscar Robertson, for that matter, Jerry West, don't get my dad started on this conversation.
Right, yeah.
You bring that up, he'll tell you Jerry West would have been the greatest three-point shooter of all time. So my point is, they played in an era where there were no threes.
Right.
By definition, they're scoring fewer points. I understand all that.
So that's what keeps this conversation to apples and oranges.
They're just numbers. They just are what they are.
And as I've always said, you can make numbers say whatever you want.
Right. And I'm not. But my point is, I'm not trying to say they say anything.
Right.
I'm just saying they're an interesting little statistical analysis.
It's the way you say it. It's just your delivery. It's just. Quite honestly, it's just you.
All right, let me get to the other one, because we did the nerd notes, and I was very pressed for time at the end. Thanks for making me feel better about it. So I wanted to just let this one breathe a second. Serena Williams is the 8th woman in tennis history to win 700 career matches, and she's the only active player with 700 wins. She, by the way, is 19-0 this year. And she is, in my lifetime of watching tennis, if you ask me, and I have been a tennis fan all of my life, so I go back to maybe the very sort of the tail end of Billie Jean King's greatness. The first real great female tennis players that I remember that I'm old enough to have seen were Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova. Their rivalry, I consider to be among the great rivalries in the history of sports, in the top 5 for sure. And they were the first great players that I remember, and you went through that era. And then in no particular order, you had Steffi Graf, who had an unbelievable career and was a great player, and others. And now the Williams sisters, particularly Serena, who has eclipsed me. If you put Serena on the court with anyone I've ever seen, she'd win.
Yeah.
I'd bet on her for sure. But as far as accomplishments, she isn't the most accomplished player of all. And this number, I wouldn't have believed it if you would have told it to me.
No, as far as it's 22 for Steffi Graf, and she has 19. 19.
Is it 18 or 19 majors that Serena has? Did she just win her 18th or her 19th?
I thought I saw she had
Maybe
19.
It was 19. I apologize. Either way.
Yeah. Pretty nice number.
She is catching up to Steffi, and at the rate that she's going, she might pass her this year.
Right.
But either way, just in terms of total numbers of matches won, and that isn't the only way or the best way to judge a player. You were right, Mike, 19 Grand Slams, sorry. But it's just a number that I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I had to read it like 4 times to make sure I was getting it right. Serena has won 700 matches. Her sister Venus, 688. Martina Navratilova won 1,442. So if you add up Serena and Venus, they don't add up to Martina.
That's amazing.
And Chris Evert is right behind.
And it's not like the Williams sisters haven't been playing for a while.
Serena Williams got to be 32-ish. She's got to be around that. And she's been playing since she was 17. So she's been around forever. She's won 700. Again, Martina, 1,442
That is
matches.
amazing.
Chris Evert, 1,309.
Yeah.
So Chrissy by herself, almost as many as the Williams sisters combined. So those numbers are, again, what they are. If you put, in my opinion, this is just me and it'll never happen, if you put Serena Williams on the court and to play singles against any woman I've ever seen, I would bet my house on
because,
Serena.
talent-wise, she's right there, but she's so much more overpowering.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just
I guess just in this era of conditioning, and if you look at what Chris Evert looked like when she was playing and what the athletes, all female athletes today.
Forget that. Males as well. They're bigger, faster, stronger. Now, again, doesn't mean better all the time.
No.
But from a physical aspect, they're certainly more
I think Martina really sort of ushered that in. I think she may have been, at least to my knowledge, and I'm speaking about stuff that I guess I haven't really studied. This is off my recollections. I think she was really the first female athlete I remember that brought things like significant weight training and stuff like that into the sport. That I think had not been the domain of female athletes, or at least not nearly as much as it was then. But we're getting sidetracked. I just thought that was an interesting statistic.
It is.
My wife now is crushing me. And here's the horrible thing. I lost an argument to you yesterday here, and now I'm losing an argument to her.
Well, wait, what argument are you losing? I mean, did you say any other basketball player should be ahead of Michael Jordan? I don't recall you saying that, unless you would put LeBron ahead of him?
Well, I think my initial thought going in was that if we were just taking into account the last 20 years, I would have put LeBron ahead of him. I'd have put Kobe ahead of him. I'd put Duncan ahead of him.
Yeah, I think
and Shaq.
I initially would have thought that as well. But take that out now. Put Tiger Woods ahead of him. She still have a problem with that?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, Tiger Woods, come on. That dominance was ridiculous.
She just tweeted, "I love it when he's wrong and makes my argument for me. Jordan is the GOAT. Greeny knows it. He just confuses himself sometimes." So
that part's true.
That's in reference to the stats that we were just reading.
Right.
One way or another, we'll see. But does this change your mind at all? That in this time frame, he won 3 Finals MVPs, which is as many as Shaq, as many as Duncan, and more than LeBron? Even though we're only taking that little time into account, he won more scoring titles and as many MVPs.
Isn't there something about doing it over a period of time as well? To keep yourself in a matter of playing condition and shape to be great over a long period of time? In this case, we're talking 20 years and still going for guys like, LeBron. Now, obviously, it hasn't been the full 20 years. For Duncan, it's been pretty darn close to it. 18? So, I mean, you want to talk about one athlete that's still playing that really encompasses almost the entire time. He's got to be he's the closest, right? Would we think?
Are we talking about Duncan?
Duncan to encompassing the entire 20 years?
Peyton Manning would be real close.
He came in 99.
Yeah, so 1 year later.
Yeah.
Of one to encompass the entire time.
I mean, Kobe was...
Tiger encompasses the entire time.
The entire time. Well,
it's
now...
a sport that what? Derek Jeter encompasses the entire time.
He does.
Jeter's rookie year. Jeter came up, I think, in 95. Right. His rookie year, legendarily, is 96. I mean, absolutely encompasses the entire time. Stacey's now retweeting everyone making fun of me. This is a delightful day. A delightful day that I have working here. My wife is retweeting hate tweets at me.
Yeah.
This is classic. Okay, Mike and Mike reminding you if you ever miss anything.
And we know how well you handle that anyway. And now your wife is the one doing it.
I need this at home now?
Yeah.
When will that husband of yours ever learn MJ is the greatest? All right, whatever.
He's greatest, but he's not number one on this list.
Okay, you want to pick on Golic?
Yeah.
Could someone pick on Golic? He's agreeing with me.
I'll start with Tiger Woods and end with Tiger Woods if you want. But in this list,
so on you it would be Tiger. For you it would be
Tiger Woods
would be one.
The dominance that he showed.
You know who's not on the list and should be? Annika Sorenstam.
Yeah.
Annika Sorenstam. Her career began in '94. 10 career majors, most of any female player born after 1940. 8-time LPGA Player of the Year. 7-time ESPY Award winner. 3-time AP Female Athlete of the Year. She probably belongs on the list. Albert Pujols belongs in the discussion. Sean White, Randy Moss, Mariano Rivera, and A-Rod are all good ones.
Yeah, they are.
Or Mike and Mike reminding you, if you miss any of the show, we've been debating this a lot this morning. And if you missed Rick Pitino, who was fascinating earlier, Mel Kiper coming up later, anytime you want to spend some time with Mike and Mike, you can download the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. It's available every morning on ESPNradio.com. Okay, something we have not gotten to all morning long that I found fascinating, and I haven't heard it yet, so I'm dying to hear it. I've read it. Mark Dominic, who works with us now, front office insider, right. NFL type, and does a very good job. I find his insight really interesting. Was on a bunch of places yesterday talking about the degree to which, the level to which teams will go to look into the guys they're going to draft. And all this stemming, of course, from Jameis, who's got the off-the-field question marks about his personality, his character, whatever the case may be. And there was the story that at least one NFL team, for lack of a better word, shadowed him on his flight to the Combine.
Doesn't shock me one bit.
Doesn't shock you at all.
No, not one bit.
Well, Mark Dominic started talking yesterday. This one, I believe, is from Colin's show, about the lengths he has gone over the course of time to study troubled prospect.
Mike Williams was a young man that got kicked off the Syracuse football team by Doug Marrone. Really good fourth-round pick for us, but we had to decide whether we could take him and where we would take him in the draft. And we did research where we went all the way back, not only through high school, but to elementary school, to talk to teachers at elementary school. So what was he as a younger kid? Not like the first grade teacher, but, fifth and sixth grade, when kids are starting to form who they are and who they hang out with and what they're about. And so we would go all the way back to elementary school teachers. We went obviously through the high schools, spent a lot of time with Doug Marrone, and it got us to a point where it got me to a point where I said, okay, I can take this guy.
So there's Mark Dominic talking in a general sense about the lengths they will go to to research guys. So that was interesting. Then he got into an even more specific story. And this one is about Justin Blackmon, who you'll recall was a very talented wide receiver coming out who had major question marks.
And still obviously didn't do a whole lot to...
It's gone the wrong direction for him. Here's Mark Dominic telling a fascinating story about the way they researched him.
We tracked players. We didn't hire outside detectives, so to speak, but we'd certainly use our scouts in their area. And what we would do is we would put dossiers together on each player. And that would include going to their hometowns. But with Justin Blackmon, there was a lot of concerns about what his character was at Oklahoma State. And so one of our area scouts, who's one of my better scouts, we had him follow Justin Blackmon around Stillwater. And we found out there was a bar called the Cricket Inn, or the Cricket, which is a popular bar there in Oklahoma State. And so he would sit there for a week. He sat there for 1 week, went in at 3 o'clock every day, and stayed till 11 o'clock at night. That was his job. And we checked how many times did Justin Blackmon come in. And he came in too many times. And we took him off our board.
How about that?
Oh, again, that doesn't.
We got a guy sitting in a bar in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
It does not shock me what they'll, and you still get it wrong at times. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you think it's overdone. Yes, but this is what they're going to do when you're going to make someone a high pick. Understand, it's not just the money. It can be more than the money in the domino effect. From the scout to the player personnel guy to the GM who tie themselves to this guy, that put their stamp of approval on this guy, and then when the guy blows up, everybody looks back, going all the way down the line, first to the biggest person. Why'd you do it? Well, this guy gave me the okay. Well, why'd you do it? Well, this guy gave me the okay. All the way down to a scout at times. So there's a domino effect of A, the guaranteed money you're giving a guy in the first round that now, we're in trouble. To B, your reputation as a person that looks at players to say, yes, this guy, draft him. I don't have a worry. Or there were concerns. You know what? I saw it enough. The concerns don't bother me, or I think we can work past them. Get them. And if it blows up in your face, it's a domino effect of people they start staring at to say, okay, how did this happen?
Justin Blackmon was the 5th overall pick, as it turned out, in the 2012 draft. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, comparing rates to help you save. Now, that's Progressive. Call or click today. Find out how much Progressive could save you. Now, regarding Jameis, he's an interesting character. Every time I watch him being interviewed and I see the way he interacts with people, there's an unusual quality about him. I can't put my finger on it. Do you feel the same way? There's just something. He's very magnetic. He's very charismatic. There's no question about it. He's extremely energetic. You know who was very energetic? Brett Hundley was in here the other day, the quarterback of UCLA.
Right.
I was struck by the energy like flying out of him. Now, I don't know if, being here, he's at ESPN, he knows that this is high profile and there's a lot of, a lot of eyeballs, a lot of people are going to judge him based on that, so that maybe hyped him up a little bit. I mean, look, this process is unbelievable. Well, what they put these young men through. But there's the quality about Jameis I can't quite put my finger on. But Albert Breer tweeted yesterday, after asking around again today, I can tell you there's still a lot of concern among evaluators about immaturity with Jameis Winston. Albert Breer tweeted that yesterday. So I would ask you, Mike, it's easier for you to sit here because you're evaluating as a football analyst.
Yes.
And you're a very good one. And I mean that in all candor. I've sat and watched a lot of football with Golic. Watching tape with Golic is fascinating. You have a great eye for the sport, beyond just the fact that you're a former player. So I know that everything you've seen from Jameis Winston as a player, you love, and you're gung-ho.
Yeah, well, without question.
But turn that around now, and this is your career. This is your livelihood. You're going to be the one whose name is on this pick, right? And if it goes the Ryan Leaf way, not only are you forever going to be remembered as the guy who picked Ryan Leaf, but you're going to get fired. Your kids are going to have to change schools. You got all that right on you.
The domino effect. Absolutely right.
Knowing what you know, are you comfortable saying you would take Jameis Winston number one?
See, that's the thing. I don't know, just as analysts, as we're looking, all of that are breaking him down on the field, we don't have, whether it's a private investigator or a scout following around. I don't have that information. I do know some of the things he's done, I chalk up to immaturity, without question, immaturity, but when it's a number of things, you can cast away one or cast away another, but when it's a list of things, and you get more sensitive about it when you're going to hand a guy $25 million guaranteed dollars and say, anytime, for lack of, let's just use it right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneer, logo is shown, it's going to be associated with Jameis Winston.
Right.
So there's a lot to that. So it's tough for me to evaluate that part of it. Now, from all we've heard, I heard that, I saw that, but I also saw people that say they're comfortable with him after talking with him. Now, isn't that, there's also a situation of you can talk yourself into anything you want, right? If you truly love what the guy is on the field, you may, when you're in a vacuum, if you hear something, you may think one thing. But if you already love him on the field and think of what he can do on the field, isn't your vacuum skewed now to, well, yeah, but that's immaturity, instead of maybe looking at it more intently? I'm not saying that you should, but I'm saying it can skew you, and I've always said that, depending on your talent on the field. And that's another reason I have no problem of them following these guys around, and I'll tell you why. Because I'll say it about Jameis as well. I'll say it about even Brett Hunt. And these guys may very well be this way. Someone emailed, okay, Jameis had a great workout, but what about the gold chain and him laughing on the field? I'm like, are you kidding me? The guy's one of the most relaxed guys out there. Now, that's just my view. But here's the thing. What also was going on that pro day? He knows he's on, right? And I'm just saying it because he was here. And Brett Hundley may very well be the greatest guy in the world. But he knows what? He's on when he's here, right? When they're getting interviewed by a team, what are they? They're on. You are going to hear, and I've said this all along, you're going to hear what you want to hear. I said that about Johnny Manziel last year. Of course he's going to say, I'm going to learn not to take a hit. I'm going to learn to slide. I'm going to learn to throw it away. You're going to hear everything that you want to hear when they're on, when they have their 15-minute interview, when they're going to visit a team, when a camera's on them, whether they've been coached or not. You're going to hear what you want to hear. That's why you follow someone. Because when you're not on, when you go sit in a bar and a guy walks into his territory of his bar when he can be himself. Now what do you get to see? Now you get to see a guy who's not on. Now you get to see a guy traveling, walking through the airport, getting on a plane. How does he interact? You get to see a guy who's not on. Now you get to see how a guy is. How does a guy treat? This is what they look for, guys. You can laugh at it all you want. How do they treat the ticket agent? How do they treat the bartender? How do they treat that person? What kind of person
are they? How do they treat the fans who walk up and say something to them?
When the lights are off, when they're not saying what they have to say, that's one of the reasons they follow these guys around, to see them when they're off. What do they say? The true test of, a character, someone is, when, how does
what
this?
you do in the dark.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
So here's the other thing that I keep thinking about with maturity. How old is Jameis Winston? Is he 21? 21. The two great standards of quarterbacks who come into the league lately and have just handled their business and walked in as leaders from day one are Russell Wilson and Andrew Luck.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. Russell Wilson played 5 years of college football, right? Didn't he? He transferred to Wisconsin and took an extra year. And Andrew Luck played his senior year. I don't know exactly how old they were, but they were older. I think Russell Wilson might have come into the league at 24.
I get what you're saying.
So my point is just a little more football, a little more maturity, a little more growing.
Luck certainly wasn't that old, though. I don't think Luck was older than 22.
Well, he played more. I mean, Jameis Winston just played 2 years. Andrew Luck graduated. He played 4 years.
Right, but he was there more because he redshirted a year, so he wasn't just at Florida State 2 years.
So 3 years.
So, yes.
So Russell Wilson, I think, Russell Wilson is now 26?
So he's 23?
So he came in at 23.
And Luck was no more than 22. Plus, also, you have to go to when they all got to college, they were 18, right? 19 years old.
Yeah.
The one thing you didn't read about is any of the stuff with Russell Wilson at North Carolina State or Wisconsin or Andrew Luck at Stanford. Even if you want to go to say, oh, that was immature, you didn't hear of any of that stuff with those guys. So that's what people will say on the other side. You didn't when they were the same age in college. So I'm not going to go too far with that one. Listen. Jameis did some dumb stuff, and I'm separating the sexual assault situation.
Right. Yeah, we did that. Yeah,
but the BB gun, the stealing the soda pop at the Burger King, and those standing on the table, immature, dumb things to do that when you add up, may raise your eyebrow a little more. And you didn't see it in those guys that you mentioned, just like the quarterbacks that come in with the high profile, and all of a sudden they're doing this deal, they're trademarking this, they're doing that. We always go back and say, well, Russell Wilson didn't do that. Now, Russell Wilson was a lower, not a first rounder, but Andrew Luck didn't do that. They came in and took care of their business, and then the fruits of their labor, they get after that. But it doesn't mean everybody has to be a cardboard cutout like that. People do it differently. But going full circle all the way back, I get why guys get looked at when they're not on. How do they act? How are they when the lights are off? And that's certainly something you want to know.
We'll get Mel Kiper's thoughts on this and more. He'll join us live 9:30 Eastern this morning, 8:30 Central. Make a point to be here if you can, because obviously we're now revving it up as we start heading towards the NFL draft. Meanwhile, coming up next, one guy said something in which he's 100% right. He may not be the one you want to hear it from, but it doesn't mean he's wrong.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNradio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
throw to the plate, safe at the plate,
right through the World Series.
For the third time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
Have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio.
Golic, AutoZone does all these cool things to help customers get in the zone.
Sure do. They charge your battery for free. They even loan tools free for bigger jobs.
Right, but what if your zone is something else? Like, what if your zone is winning the ultimate Mike and Mike experience, 4 days and 3 nights in L.A. for the ESPYs?
AutoZone is helping us get you there. It's the Mike and Mike experience at the ESPY Sweepstakes, presented by AutoZone. All the details are at ESPNradio.com/Mike's ESPY contest.
Cool.
It's called The Zone. AutoZone's going to help get you there.
Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.